Hello everybody and welcome back to another video by FunLearn Tutorials. In today's video, we are going to be discussing about the price definition. Now, basically an interesting thing is we had already started with the price definition in the last video. This equation that I wrote, which actually follows from the physical definition, is actually one way of representing the price definition. So why? Because it's a factor price. So this is a factor price. So factor price is one way of visualizing the price definition. What could be another way? Another way could be, now this takes into consideration the intensity, the goods intensities. So if A is labor abundant, then let me write that down. So A is labor abundant, or pictographically we can write LA is high. That means A is labor abundant. And we also know X is labor intensive. So if A is labor abundant and X is labor intensive, as we discussed before, X should find it easier to produce A. So now we are considering the price of the two goods. So we have PX for A. We can think of it this way, or we can write it in this way: PX by PY in economy A and PX by PY. This is called the price ratio, right? In economy B. So what do you think? If in economy A has more labor and X is labor intensive, A has more labor. So A can produce more X. So do you think it will charge more price, or do you think it will charge less price? It will charge less price. So if A is labor abundant, this will be PX by PY for A will be less than PX by PY for B, right? So we actually have this as the price definition. Now going back to the Heckscher-Ohlin model, basically the Heckscher-Ohlin model says, what does the Heckscher-Ohlin model say? If A, this is again a pictographic way, it's not the statement. If A is labor abundant, now how do we define labor abundant? There are two definitions, the physical definition and the price definition. So if A is labor abundant, what does that mean? It means if LA by LB is greater than KA by KB, or any of the other possible alternatives, basically this, or you can write it in any whichever way you want. If this is true, this is the physical definition. So this is the physical definition. Or if you consider the price definition. So if you consider the price definition, what would that be? PX by PY in economy A. PX by PY in economy B. See, I'm not going to watch the expression that I thought about. I'm going to derive it on my own. A is labor abundant. I know X is labor intensive. So the price will be less. See, it matches. If any of these hold, so if L is labor abundant, A should, what should A do? A should export. A should export. This is a international trade chapter. So if A is labor abundant, A should export what? A should export the labor intensive good, what? Labor intensive X. And import, what should it import? The other one, of course, the capital intensive Y. So if A is labor abundant, it should export the labor intensive. Basically a country, if a country is abundant in a particular factor, it should export the good in which it is intensive and import the other good. That is basically the idea of the Heckscher-Ohlin model.